Today's program is sponsored by ALP Limited Valuation Services. Most owners don't know what their business or their equipment is really worth until a lender, buyer, or partner asks. That's where we come in. ALP Limited Valuation Services provides small business valuations and certified machinery and equipment appraisals you can rely on for decisions that matter. Learn more at businessandassetvalues.com.
From Halifax to St. John's, this is the Atlantic Canada Business Report, focusing on the week in business news from across the Atlantic region. The people, projects, and policies shaping business across our region. I'm Peter McCulley. A policy commentary from the Fraser Institute is urging Atlantic provincial governments to cut general business tax rates, arguing the region remains less competitive than much of the country. The analysis suggests high taxes may discourage new investment and business expansion, particularly as companies reassess costs heading into 2026. Advocates claim that lower rates could broaden the tax rate over time by stimulating growth, even if revenues dip initially. Governments, however, face competing pressures from affordability concerns and public spending demands. With productivity and private sector growth under scrutiny, the debate is expected to resurface during upcoming budget discussions across the region. Atlantic Canada's at-sea fisheries monitoring system is facing renewed scrutiny, with advocacy groups warning that observer coverage has fallen well below federal targets in several fisheries. Labor shortages since the pandemic have left some fleets monitored less than 1% of the time, raising concerns about sustainability, compliance, and market credibility. Industry and regulators are now exploring electronic monitoring tools that combine onboard cameras with artificial intelligence to fill gaps. Supporters say modernized monitoring could improve data quality while easing staffing challenges, though implementation costs and oversight remain open questions. The outcome has implications for export access and the long-term reputation of Atlantic seafood. Large employers across Canada are tightening remote work policies in 2026, a shift that could have ripple effects in Atlantic Canada. Flexible work arrangements have been a key tool for regional employers competing for talent, particularly with workers based elsewhere. A national move back toward office-first models may influence labor mobility. Canadian businesses are heading into 2026 with trade and policy uncertainty top of mind, and Atlantic Canada is no exception. Export-driven sectors, such as seafood, forestry, and advanced manufacturing, are particularly sensitive to currency shifts, transportation costs, and changing trade rules. While markets have shown resilience, many firms are preparing for volatility rather than expansion. The outlook suggests cautious capital spending, tighter cost controls, and a renewed focus on productivity. For Atlantic businesses, diversification and risk management remain central themes as global and domestic policy signals continue to evolve. Nova Scotia's restaurant sector is entering 2026 under continued pressure from rising wages, food costs, and labor shortages. Minimum wage increases in 2025 lifted payroll expenses, while inflation has made customers more cautious about dining out. Industry leaders say another scheduled wage hike will add strain, even as some sales growth was recorded last year. Restaurants are calling for targeted relief measures, including changes to alcohol pricing and incentives for sourcing local food. Labor availability, particularly for cooks and chefs, remains a critical issue that could limit growth despite strong tourism demand. Nova Scotia is increasing income assistance payments by 1.6% in 2026, continuing its policy of indexing benefits to inflation. The adjustment also applies to participants in the Disability Support Program receiving the standard household rate. While modest, the increase aims to provide predictability for households facing higher costs for essentials such as housing, food, and utilities. From a business perspective, the steadier household income can help support baseline consumer spending, particularly in smaller communities. The move reflects broader efforts to reduce sudden benefit shocks amid persistent cost of living pressures. Rental housing providers in Halifax are pushing back against a proposed water rate increase of just over 17%, arguing it remains well above inflation even after being reduced. Landlords say rising utility and tax costs are increasingly difficult to absorb without passing expenses on to tenants, complicating affordability efforts. The dispute highlights a broader tension between housing policy goals and the operating realities of rental properties, particularly older buildings with thinner margins. As utility costs rise, the debate is expected to feed into wider discussions about development feasibility, infrastructure funding, and how regulation align with housing supply objectives. After this word, New Brunswick is advancing plans to expand its battery energy storage capacity, and Prince Edward Island's oyster industry is still grappling with the fallout from the MSX parasite.
This segment is brought to you by ALP Limited Valuation Services. If you own a small business, understanding the value of your company and the value of your equipment is essential. We provide independent small business valuations and certified machinery and equipment appraisals to support buying, selling, financing, and strategic planning. Get clarity and confidence at businessandassetvalues.com.
Nova Scotia's blueberry industry is asking for financial assistance after a drought-hit season slashed yields in many growing areas. Producers say export demand remains strong, particularly in the United States and Europe, but reduced supply threatens market access and revenue. The impact extends beyond farms, affecting processors, transport companies, and rural service businesses tied to the sector. Industry representatives argue that stabilizing growers now is key to protecting long-term export capacity. The situation underscores how climate-related disruptions are becoming a significant economic risk for agriculture across the province. Nova Scotia's offshore energy regulator is seeking a firm to study potential sites for the proposed WindWest offshore wind project. The work will assess marine life, seabed conditions, and archaeological considerations, helping streamline future environmental approvals. The project could eventually generate up to 5 gigawatts of power and has attracted federal interest, although it was not included in the first round of fast-track projects. If developed, offshore wind could represent a major investment opportunity for the province, with implications for supply chains, skilled labor demand, and long-term clean energy exports. New Brunswick is advancing plans to expand its battery energy storage capacity, issuing a new call for proposals aimed at strengthening grid reliability and supporting renewable power integration. The province is seeking large-scale battery projects that can store electricity during periods of surplus and release it when demand is higher, helping manage peak loads and reduce strain on the system. Officials say energy storage will play a growing role as more renewable generation comes online. For businesses, expanded battery infrastructure could support long-term energy stability, reduce outage risks, and create new opportunities in clean energy development and grid services. Prince Edward Island's oyster industry is still grappling with the fallout from the MSX parasite, which disrupted production through 2025. Fishers and processors have warned of severe financial strain, prompting the provincial government to introduce targeted assistance programs. While the funding offers some relief, industry leaders say longer-term support is needed to stabilize operations and protect jobs. The crisis has highlighted vulnerabilities within PEI's aquaculture sector, which employs thousands and supports export markets. Biosecurity, environmental risk, and financial resilience are expected to remain central issues for the industry in 2026. Usage of Prince Edward Island's public library system increased in 2025, with residents borrowing more than 735,000 items and participating in thousands of programs. The growth reflects strong demand for public spaces that support learning, digital access, and community connection. From an economic perspective, libraries play a role in workforce development, newcomer settlement, and skills upgrading, particularly in rural areas. The figure suggests sustained interest in shared services that enhance quality of life, a factor increasingly tied to talent attraction and retention. Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro has signed a short-term power purchase agreement with Corner Brook Pulp and Paper, reducing electricity costs for the facility through mid-2026. The deal lowers the price per megawatt hour significantly compared to previous rates, helping to stabilize operations at a major rural employer. The provincial government says it will continue reviewing long-term options for the mill while maintaining rate stability for other customers. The agreement underscores the importance of energy pricing in sustaining industrial operations and supporting forestry-dependent communities across the province. Corner Brook has been selected as host city for the 2026 Newfoundland and Labrador Summer Games, a decision expected to deliver a short-term economic boost. Large multi-sport events typically generate increased spending on accommodations, food services, transportation, and local procurement. Organizers are now moving into the planning phase, with businesses preparing for an influx of athletes, families, volunteers, and spectators. Beyond immediate tourism impacts, the Games will also create temporary employment and community investment. Hosting duties offer both economic activity and longer-term visibility. That's the Week in Business News from the Atlantic Canada Business Report. I'm Peter McCulley. Join us next time for more on the people, projects, and policies shaping business across our region.